So welcome to the sixth OpenMusic Study Group. So in this, we're going to address looking and building up a library within OpenMusic. So that's building your own functions and how you can import them into the workspace. So this is going to be slightly different because really when I'm doing a lot of this importing, I do it within emacs. So that's really where a lot of the sort of the coding side of things happen. So if I could open up our OpenMusic, we can see in our listener, we have basically our little repo where we can do little Lisp style things. And that's grand, but I just find that using this text editor a bit more useful when it comes to building a library. So you can, you don't need to necessarily use Emacs, but I find it useful whenever I am starting. So the first thing I wanted to just quickly show is one thing I like to do before I start adding in code is to, maybe have it saved somewhere, some backed up. So GitHub's a great one to use. It's fairly straightforward to build a repository. So we can call this study group and example library. So we set that to public, create a repository. I already have Git set up on my computer. I'll link some videos in the YouTube for anyone who's interested in setting this up and putting together an SSH on their computer so that they can sort of follow along. So I'm going to use the shell to more or less bring up the file where I store my OM. So this is where I keep a lot of these libraries. Obviously, I'm using the emacs to kind of use this shell command. It's the same as using the command line here or PowerShell or whatever. It's just because I'm doing everything else in Emacs, I like to just set it all up here. But it's the same as this kind of GUI interface. So we can see we've got our libraries folder with some of the libraries, which is the same as this libraries folders here. So if I go into that folder, we can see some libraries. So I can make a file where we're going to store all our code. So we'll just call this the same as the GitHub repository we set up. So we can see now in this, we now have our study group. The best way to do to set it up in GitHub is to set up a little Git file where we can Git init. That will more or less, it's a hidden file, but it now means that we can add things into our file. And if we go actually into our study group, and I'll call if we actually, well, if we look at what's maybe in other libraries, just look at the one I've got here. Got a Lisp file, just resources, sources and resources file. And then this one we don't need to worry about because OpenMusic will automatically make that for us. But if we have our study group.lisp, this will automatically set up a little REPL here for me, but we don't necessarily need to worry about that just yet. But we can see then in our study group, if I see it, if I just add a comment, some text, and save that, if we look inside, we can now see we have our study group, our first file within our library. So where's our study group? There's our little file. We've said we also need a sources folder and a resources folder. So they're there, they've been made. And best thing to do is then make sure we've got this pushed up to our GitHub. So you can see we can sort of follow the instructions here. I don't need to add a README to this or anything. The git add will just take the file we've just made and get it ready to get pushed up. We could almost just kind of copy and paste the next couple of lines here, just so you can see. Oh, sorry, it's already copied that one. So the first commit. This next one's important because that will tell us where it tells the computer where to now start pushing this up to GitHub. So we push all that up. If we go into this, our repository and refresh, we can see we've now got our first commit with our little comment that we've added. So that gets us set up with a sort of a backup. We've now got a way of kind of pushing up information to GitHub, or files to GitHub, and keep this all kind of safe. With inside these, this is where we're actually going to have our information of the code that we're going to write. So in OpenMusic, these commands that we give. So if we want to add something in these little functions, are going to be pictures in this, but equally we can see that there are also lines of code that we can call upon as well. So that's, if we're building a library, it's being able to build our own version of these interactions or these functions to sort of interact with in the workspace. So if I open up this one, so this is the kind of the file that starts with the code that we're going to start loading into the library. So we've you can see we've got some file libraries here with some preloaded libraries. So this is going to be the code that tells OpenMusic what to do or how to load it in that way that we can call it. So first thing we need is our in package. I've given some other examples of how this can be implemented. There's, you know, in OpenMusic, there's about 6 different ways of doing the same thing. So I've got a couple of those added in here. I'll sort of have this as a Lisp file that can be found in the downloads of the description, so you can experiment and see what other ways there are. But if we just go, I think I had a test file. So this is some of the, you know, this is if someone's going to be coming to your library and using it and they want to look inside, this is what they're going to see. So we can, you know, decorate this with some, make it nice for them if they're coming to read your source code. So we can see here the kind of the bare bones that we need to type in to OM or to Lisp to get our code. So this study group, like, so if see we've got a little bit of description here about what it's going to do. You don't necessarily need this, but this will be, if I study group, I'm going to go into our sources. Cool. Functions. I'm kind of giving these silly names, but it's fairly, you can, if I go into my sort of test, you can see this is the part that's going to really tell OpenMusic what to do now. So if we go within these functions, we press, if we, like before, we can press D to see the documentation, but we can also press E to have a look at the source code. And this is now the bit that we're going to do. You know, you can see, depending how much decoration and how interesting you want to make it look, you can really start decorating and filling out. But this is going to be where the Lisp code is going to start happening. So, you know, I have it that we can press study group code. I have it set up in my emacs that the parentheses automatically kind of get open and closed. So it's going to look a little bit strange to see me type, but that's, it's paredit is just a little thing that I have set up on this to kind of help me deal with the endless parenthesis of coding in Lisp. So again, we're telling it our package is OM. In this, we've got def method. So it's defining a method. So this is now the object that's going to appear in our patch. This is where all this information is going to be passed. So if we want to have so in our def method, this is open and close parentheses. So everything can happen within these parentheses. Within the first set of parentheses is then what are the arguments coming into this. So if it's taking one argument, then we've got to tell what it is. So be it a number, a list, or whatever, it's gonna need to be told, hey, here's the argument, or the name of the argument that we're gonna then call, and the type. The initial intervals are just what are the default numbers that we want to populate it. So we can see here, it automatically puts in 0 for that. If we put in a different function of, say, I don't know, a sort list, the default is going to be nil. So this is where you would define that sort of information. The indoc is going to be how we help someone who's using this. So this is going to be this is what this is going to all generate, so we can see our arguments, what that is, the default, and then a description about what it does. So the icon is going to be this, what OpenMusic is going to call upon to make this look good. So this is just purely about the GUI, and it's just going to be a number that we're going to call to in the sources. And the doc then is going to tell someone how to use. So we can then, the next line of code is going to be what this function does. We've actually got to name it first. Sorry, we've got to, after our def method, we've got to then call it something. So my test A, and what do I want this to do? It's going to add 10 to whatever argument it's going to take. So we can see if we save that, it will, let's go back to our, we've then got to sort of jump back to our first file, this one, to sort of see, obviously we've got to populate the library. Then we have our fill library, and this is where we've got to make sure the code here sort of matches up. So we've got call this 10, and we can see 2 nils after that. My test A is opened and closed, and then we get nil. And I think that should fill that in. So let's see if this has worked. So we go to library. Oh, where is it? Maybe I need to close this. So we've called this in our, why is this not come up? So this should now come up as a library whenever we load in our libraries. So we go into preferences, library, study group. Oh, I've mistyped something. Oh, yes, I haven't messed about in our sources. Oh, this is where I typed the wrong. This is where you got to make sure everything that you type, everything you ask it to find has got the same name. That should, if I save that, hopefully this will now load. There we go. So if I open the patch we were in, go to our libraries. Why has it not come up yet? Is our libraries not? Other classes. I think I've implemented this the wrong.
I had a lot of those kind of errors, Alan.
Yeah.
I'm happy. yeah. And I didn't know where to start searching for a solution.
It's gonna be. Oh, I think it's sources. It's got to find that the I think it's to do with trying to remember. I think the problem it's how I'm populating it.
And what is actually the nil after the title?
This is, I'm still not 100, I think it's all to do with sort of just the way the information is being passed. I haven't
Okay,
actually worked
okay.
out why
Yeah.
these things have got to come in.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, okay.
There's lots of different ways of doing it. That's what I kind of, in this one, you can see there's a lot of different ways of, oh, this is, yeah, so you've got to, you know, there's a couple of different people have addressed it in different ways. So I'm gonna just check my, I think I'm haven't enough parentheses here. I don't know if I'm right.
That seems the case.
Study group nil. Then
otherwise it would probably call a ret or something.
Yeah, the two. I think that does look right. Maybe I'll add another line just to see. Test. Yeah, there's something going on here because I should have another set of parentheses to close. Tell you what, sometimes it's better just to retype something out again. So it's called study group. And it has to get, what did I call? I called this my test A. That's what I've got to type in. So you've actually got to call in here this, and then that should be it. Now, did I save that? So if I go into my functions library, oh, I've got to load it. So if we go into our libraries, our study group, we reload that library, we now have my test A. So this is looking better. There's our study group, my test A, and it will add 10 to whatever we give it. So if we look at that, perfect. I mean, in terms of adding, you know, we've looked at sort of these two are resources. Oh, I never had anything in this. Are where we have sort of our pictures. It's not really important to do. It all works, as we can see. But obviously, if you want,
I actually wanted to ask whether for each function you need to declare all those three elements in itself in doc icon and doc. Can you skip some of it,
yeah,
or is it required?
I think I mean, I've always kind of put something in here. If we go, I mean, this should now, we should see if it should populate it with some, yeah, there's not an awful lot you need to put in. You can just add in placeholders. I don't think it necessarily needs to be put in. Certainly icon, I've just stuck on a comment there. I assume that will work for probably your initial values. I think you do need to put that in, even if it's just
I suppose so.
You need to put. It needs to first do it with when it first puts the object in the work space. It needs you're giving it that initial value to start with. I think everything else, obviously, the in doc and the doc are optional. Numbers definitely optional. In terms of, I mean, obviously for populating height with something good looking, you don't need, you can, if you used Photoshop or something, it obviously looks better. I find sort of 32 by kind of 32 is kind of a good
size.
Good size, roughly. I'm just gonna do something just to get. I don't know. Let's do a paint pink background and a. These colors are probably terrible, but it'll do for now. So saving that PNG. So we, where did I have this? You know, if we go to, where did I store my OM stuff? Study group, our resources. Call this. I think it should just be fine if we start at 1.
And then you can replace it with a number.
So this should. No, I'll probably need to. So if you make a change, always probably best. Just
probably you need to reload every time.
Reload.
Yeah.
Oh, it didn't come up with the image there. Yeah. So I just wanted to share something. I've managed to get the icon documents working, and I know what the problem was. If we look back to the things that I was typing at the time, we can see my init valves. This is when I changed the test, but we can see that the spelling is wrong, which, as we said, was quite a common mistake. So it's init vals, and the way Lisp works is obviously it reads code sequentially. So obviously, it's just kind of these middle bits here we're getting completely overlooked, including our icons, and even the document information was being overlooked as well. That's why if we look at, let's see. So if we go into the folder and see what we have, our icons. So that was 906 was the one that I made inside the paint. So if I had these in just to test to make sure it was working, but if I reload my library, we can see that we now have some images here. So if I delete that, my test A, you can see the image that I made in Paint previously. So that's the final step in the puzzle of your library of adding the icons now working. The one last thing to do, obviously, is once we've got our changes and everything made, we want to then push this up to GitHub. So if we go through the steps that were taken previously, so it's git add, it's a full stop. git commit, and we put an M flag, and this is a little message to ourselves to let us know what we've changed. So icon issue fixed. And once these are added, committed, it's then a case of pushing those changes to our repository. And if I refresh this, we can now see our changes have been made. Mistakes are now gone, and everything's working as it should be.
Would you be okay with sharing that library that you made yourself just for study? I mean,
yes, I'm gonna be putting, because I'll be tidying this up, because I actually have, there's a few, there's a couple of different ways of doing stuff.
Yeah, and really have the feeling that actually I could learn a lot from looking at it, because it's like, it seems like it's not so complicated as OM Tristan, for example. So
there's a couple of
it's more humanly readable somehow.
Yeah, I mean, it's fairly strict. It's not too bad. It's all doing the same sort of thing in a roundabout way.
Yeah. And sorry, by the way, for the background noise. The train is super loud.
Don't worry.
It's so funny to look at it like from on the train.
It must be pretty good signal where you are. If you're able to stream it and do everything.
Yeah, it's good, just basic 4G, but it works pretty decent.
Good. Yeah, I mean, at least we've kind of got the hardest bit going. I thought adding the icon would have been hard. Just to go over something quickly.
As long as the function works, I guess it's it's the most important thing. Yeah?
I mean, whenever you're building these, if we, just to kind of show, you don't need to, I was going to call this much the same. I mean, you can obviously put in, maybe I should give an example of multiple numbers. So you can see we've got this, we've got our two arguments. Our initial vowels are going to be that indoc let's see how much we can get away with not putting in doc. I should say, whenever you're adding in comments and things, to try and be as descriptive as possible, because it helps people unpacking your code. But one thing I've seen a lot is, obviously we can actually start to mess about with our own function, building our own functions from the ground up and then calling them within the method. This is one of the things that I really like doing in this environment in Emacs, because we can, call this super, usually I've already messed about with something called a super cool function, super cool second function. So we can give this X and Y. And you see the top corner, we have this little, it's called slime. That's the little wrap-off for Emacs. So if I just first, let me see if I remember my formatting code here. So if I compile that. You can see up in the top corner, we've compiled this function. So I can actually, gosh, it's really hard to see. Super cool. Second function, pass it 1 and 2. There we go. So we've now got we have a function here, which we can then call upon. Well, actually, one thing I've seen a lot of them do is call it do. So whenever we go up here, we can call it super cool second function. And then what it's going to do is do super cool function arg1, arg2, and that should then be put in here. And we should then, this should, when we put this in OM, it'll take this, but it will be calling this. So if we go into our library, yep, there's our super cool second function. And here we have our 2 inlets, and it's going to want a list in the second one. And that should, maybe it's, oh, it's because I've given it a list. I'll tell you what, let's just change this back to a number, because I'm not actually performing an operation that really uses a list. And that should fix that. Probably does that. Super cool. Second function. And still not. Why is that not working? Oh, well, that should work. Arg1, 2. Let's find out. Maybe it wants me to fill in some of this information. Right, well, let's see if we go to no, we can get away with not doing that. Let's see if that works. Although it did spawn it. Might be just a problem with the code. Oh, well, we don't do. No. Right, undefined operator. Undefined operator? I thought X and Y, what is working? Not sure why this isn't working. because this should call that X, Y. Yeah. Wonder why that's did is sorry, I can't see him. Right, here we go. This is what's happening. Well, here's where making sure you're actually writing the same thing again helps.
Yeah, indeed.
This is the
Sounds
biggest,
familiar. Sounds pretty
yeah,
familiar. These errors.
one of the biggest problems with code is spelling and making sure you're writing the same thing twice. Right. This should now work. Super cool. Second function. We give it 10 and 7. And there we go. First element 10, second it's 7.
Yeah.
So
maybe in the meantime, while you're searching, I wanted to ask one small question because I'll have to go in a bit,
yes.
like 5 minutes something.
Sure.
I arrived at the school. What if you want to call? I mean, I saw the in package OM.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to call another library, like in your library, you want to call OM alia, for example.
Yeah.
Would it be like in package OM alia?
There's I do think there is a require package.
Yes, I see.
That's where you would, so I think it's possibly below that you would.
So that it searches for the library to be present.
Yes.
I know it must work because I know that there are libraries that require other ones.
Yeah, I think it's, there's a page, I have to search for it, but it's, there is information about that. I will link that in the description, the video description.
Yeah.
Page, just making a note to myself. Because
it's like really useful if you can, for example, have the mathematics of the Sdif translation or other things that you don't have to reconstruct it all from scratch.
That's definitely possible. I think I do remember reading that. I think you just include require package and then give it the name, and that's obviously, how you do that. So that's basically, I mean, I'm sorry I didn't get the icon aspect sorted. It's fairly straightforward. If I manage to fix it, and maybe splice that in at some point in the video. Yeah. So Han, is there anything else you want to cover? That's mainly that bit for doing the library was just the one thing that this video had to include. So I'm happy to kind of help you address anything else that you're interested in looking at.
Yeah, I just want to know how to do the. In the beginning, I was asking you.
Yeah. Oh, the Sdif.
To yes, Steve import this
Have you got, so have you got the Spear and all downloaded?
Yes, I have that now.
Do you want to share your screen and I'll talk you through? I think down at the bottom, share screen, and that's it.
So can you look this?
Yeah, I can see everything now. So have you got your Spear file loaded?
Yes, this
And
one.
yeah, and that's what you've got locked in.
Lock.
So yeah, so you have it locked. No, keep it locked. So you want to connect the bottom inlet to your Sdif chord sequence. So connect the bottom inlet to the top inlet of that. Perfect. Now, you see what it's going to do is it's going to convert this into the class object chord sequence. So what you need to do is go to your click on classes, score, and you see chord sequence.
This.
That one, yeah. So perfect. And because that Sdif arrow chord sequence is going to output a chord sequence, all you need to do is connect that inlet to the first inlet of that chord sequence.
So I connected it.
Yeah. So now if you click M, you can have a look inside of it. So if you click the object and press M.
Which one?
So the chord sequence, if you just click on this, just click on it to select it and then press the letter M in the keyboard.
No, which key?
M.
No.
Have you that one? Have you? I've written in the group there.
Okay.
There you go. So now, if you instead of pressing M this time, you click V, it will now evaluate it.
Oh, the note is missed.
So have you got the Sdif file? Unlock the Sdif file at the top there that you.
No.
Oh no, sorry. You have it. You need to get the. Sorry, you got your WAV file. You haven't got the.
Yeah.
Yes. So open up Spear.
Just open this file.
Okay.
Yeah, and.
So now, do you want to just keep it as is, or do you want to like edit that a little bit?
Just like this.
Okay. So now go to File, Save As, or Export. Yeah, just Save As, and then you'll see it's saving it as. Oh no, save it. Cancel that. Sorry. Export. Sorry.
Format.
Yes. Sdif.
Which one?
The top one should be fine.
This.
No. The Sdif, that one that's selected, that should be fine.
Okay.
Oh, so click File.
Yeah.
Go to Export, just the top one. Yeah. And click. Sorry, this is a different interface. Let me just look at my.
I stop this.
Yeah, stop the sharing a second, so I can have a look at what I do. so for my, it's, what did I just want to run through it again to sort of see what I did. So I opened this up, this file. So I clicked save. I think if you go to save as, as long as you have it selected as Sdif, it should work. Okay, so
Yeah.
share your screen again. So go to your sphere.
And then export, save.
No, you're doing that as a, is it saving it as a Sdif file? Do you know?
I think yeah.
Yeah. Oh, perfect. So, so you've got, oh, that's done then. So you've got your, oh, you've got it saved as an Sdif file.
Yeah, yeah.
So, sorry. So whenever you unlock your, in your patch, the top object, unlock that by pressing B so you can evaluate it. Yeah.
Unlock.
Yeah. Now evaluate.
How to do that?
So you select it and press V.
V?
V, yeah. Now you need to find on your desktop the 23 wave file.
This?
That's it. Now make sure you lock. Press B. B.
Yeah.
And now evaluate the chord sequence box, the, you know, with the treble clef.
No.
The third object down. So go down there, perfect. And evaluate that.
How to evaluate?
Press V, select it and press V.
No, this no. Oh, okay.
There you go.
Oh.
So now you're getting everything you've put into that.
Oh yeah. So how can I make this bigger?
So if you can sort of drag the box, or you can just double click and it will open up a window where you can have a look at things. But it's never, because you're using partials that are so high, you know, it's going to be impossible to read.
The problem is that how can I mean, because the notes are together, how to make the separator.
What do you mean? I'm sorry.
For example, I want to read this. Which note one? Yeah. Maybe I can move that.
So it's at the minute, it's what it's done is more or less given you a kind of MIDI type of interpretation of it. So you can, if you look just at your score file or the sphere file, you can see that it's so dense, it's almost going to be impossible to read. Could I share my screen again, just to, so if you stop. So like I was sort of I showed you this, when I opened the first one that I hadn't cleaned up, you know, it's such a mess and there's so much happening. These events are you can, if you look at the documentation, we can see the next inlet is just pitches of MIDI sense. So we can just look, if I go first and connect that, and then look at the chord, we can just look at the first chord, you know, without cleaning it up. This is go into the second inlet just because of the type of information that's being passed to it. It's so here's our first chord. We can adjust here. You can see it's set to G clef. If we go to G, G, F, F, we can get a little bit more, obviously, of the notes, but you still see some of these notes are just so high they're not going to fit, and it's just because the, you know, this staff notation just does not, it's not suitable for addressing pitches that are beyond human hearing, you know, in that or beyond real instrumental range capabilities. You know, there's a point where this it will get the information, but in order to see it, it's just not possible. It's just the interface is not one that will allow you to visually see. If I look at this, we can look inside what it's telling it, and you know, we can see the numbers, we can see the exact numbers that are being passed, but some of it is just, these are the MIDI sent values. If we actually, what we can do, there's a function to turn MIDI sense into frequencies, so we can get that information. So I can't remember exactly where it is, but I know it offhand. It's MC-F. So this is MIDI sense to frequency, the same way that this is Sdif to chord sequence. So if we connect this, the information that this will now give is the frequency value of all those notes. So you can see this is the information we're getting. It's, you know, if you're wanting to do something with this information, you can still access it, but obviously if you want to actually visually see it in a chord sequence like this, it's not going to happen. It's just it's working with material that's just so there's so much information that it's not the right form of presenting it, and that's where you get this huge mass of notes. It's just it's never going to be the right thing to do. That's why I always clean up. You know, if you select, you know, if you're in the sphere, you can actually say, well, you know, the range of piano or whatever instrument is only going to be from here to here. So you can just clip out everything higher than a certain frequency, or you know, there's so much happening that it's best to just remove the messier notes, and that's why I kind of edit it down. And we can see if we go to our GGFF, oh, you know, all this kind of fits much more neatly onto the stave. And if I even look at that first chord, you know, we can get a bit, it's being able to pick out the information that's useful, because, you know, obviously you know, the Sdif file from Sphere is just so full of information that you just need to be able to pick the useful bits for what you need.
Yeah. Okay.
So have you seen, do you want to share your screen and I'll see if I can help you pick out some of, sort of clean up that.
Yeah.
So if you go to your Sphere file,
yeah.
if you go to edit, and you see it's yeah, select partials below threshold. Oh, you got that? So you can, you know, anything that's below a certain decibel level you can remove.
This is dynamic.
Yes, kind of.
Okay.
So if you, you know, sort of 50, 60, 40, you know, there's a kind of good number, or, you know, below minus 50. Click that and you'll see it will select. And if you click delete,
Mm-hmm.
that will delete all of those notes that were selected.
I remember I can draw, I can
Yeah,
select.
exactly. Yeah, you can also like
Yeah.
select and remove things that you want to delete, and you can shape it in that way also. But it's also worth, you know, if you zoom out a little bit.
How to zoom?
So you see at the top of the Sphere.
View?
No, down below. Well, you can do it there as well. Yeah, zoom out. Zoom out. So keep. There's also a button in the top. If you go above, yeah, you can see. You know, there's so many of these frequencies that are just almost impossible to deal with. So exactly, if you pick the point at which, you know, it'll
Yeah.
and you can really kind of pick the bits that you want to deal with, or, you know.
So I just delete some.
Yeah. So the so if you you know, remove the bits that you don't want and then save that file as, you know, 23 wave 2 or something, you know, don't run over the one you've just saved. Just save it as a second file. So now you can. So if you go to your Sdif, if you the object with the blue X.
This
Well, you've got, if you click, if you unlock the one you've got below that first, the chord sequence, yeah. So when you unlock, you select and press B. Yeah, and you go to the second, no, unlock. So make sure it doesn't have the X, and then do the same for the SDIF object.
No reaction.
On the top, just above, going up. No, still in your patch, at the very top of your patch.
Import?
If you go to, let me see if I can help you. Can you see my mouse?
No.
Hold on.
Oh, okay.
Can you see that?
Yeah,
Yeah, so if you unlock that so it doesn't have that X. No, so if you click on it and press B.
okay.
Perfect. Now, just click on it and press V. And now select your 23 wave 2. And then press B just to lock it. Perfect. And now go to your chord sequence and press V again.
V.
V, yeah. Click and V.
Oh,
And you
so
can see
you
it's now taken out a lot of those frequencies. You've still got quite a lot, but you can see much clearer.
Yeah.
If you go to the staff, because I think you're only looking at it in a treble clef, go to your keep on the box you were in, the chord sequence window.
What?
So in the chord sequence window, if you go down to if you go to here, so if you click, sorry, this staff and go to GGFF, that's it.
What does that mean?
Click this one, and it will then give you the G, G,
Oh.
F, F. So you can see the shaping that you've done much more. You know, here is the big cut that you took out. There's still a lot of frequencies that are just too high for this to deal with, but you can see that you're starting to get much more of the shape that you originally drew.
Yeah. I just it's the same.
Yeah, you can sort of see it's obviously, you know, everything everything sort of from about here up is all getting pushed into this one space just because of everything is so high and there's so little space to show it. It just can't deal with it. I mean, one of the things I like to do is look and sort of see what are the frequency range of a piano, and that will that gives you a good indication of what's going to look, what you're going to be able to see in OpenMusic. In that specific chord sequence.
How did you show the a first, second? First chord.
So so could I jump into if you stop sharing a second, I'll show you my screen. So it's a lot harder to sort out looking at a specific second of music. You can do it by obviously looking at the sort of filtering it by specific duration, but it's the working out what's coming in and what's coming out is going to sort of help you with that. So the list that is coming out of this is, if we look at our OM listener, you can see this is it's a list of lists. Okay, so it's going to it's taking these things that are happening from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. So the entire duration of this, my recording is sort of 1899 milliseconds. So, you know, you can see the things I've selected. If I select a chord, it'll tell me the time section. So it's working out how many, you know, if you've got, so if I click length, length will tell me the length of a list. So if I have a list here with, you know, 4 elements, this will tell me it's 4. If I have a list with, you know, just the number 10, it will tell me there's 1 element in that list. So if we take this and look at how many chords there are, we have 33 chords happening. Okay.
Oh.
So it would be a case of working out in, you know, in that, you know, 1899 milliseconds, there are 33 chords. So it's working out what's happening. It's finding the right functions then within this, you know, to get the right information, to then filter it to find out, here's what I need. So if we look at the documentation, so some of these are going to be, you know, even though some of these chords are here, if I go to duration, you can see we're now looking at some of these, you know, even though they are happening for, you know, at the start, some of them happen a lot longer. So it's working out.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not as easy as working out what's going to be happening in that specific time frame. If we actually click voice, what this does is this presents the information in a more kind of notational way. So here we can see this is the same information presented slightly differently. So it's not a perfect representation because obviously some of these are last a lot longer than others, but you can see, you can start to unpack, well, here's now, these have now been bound to a rhythmic value. So collecting this by clicking D, we can see we now have this information presented in a slightly different way, and how we could maybe say, well, we have first sort of 1, 2, 3, 4 chord type events that we could draw upon to get the first kind of crotchet. So in our list, we could take this is going to be this gets slightly more complicated because we might want to use a loop function, which, you know, I'm not sure. Well, let's see. We'll just collect these. So first 4 objects. No, it's the other way around. No, sorry, this is not. This. Sorry, I can never remember which way these inlets go in and out. All right. So it is. It's see, that should work. Loop. I need to work with this for a little bit to sort of work out. You know, you're working out the what do you call it? The right kind of function to work out. You know, I need the first X amount of elements and then extracting it. It's probably, you know, anything's really possible. I would just need to take a minute to work out exactly what to do. So if we take maybe not. Well, I think, are you in the Facebook group?
I think I am.
I'll post a, just because we're kind of like, time's kind of getting on. I will, I'll post a link in the, or a picture in the YouTube group with that, with the kind of the code for how you would sort that out, you know.
Okay, yeah.
And you can, you know, take that, and you know, if you've any other questions, the Facebook group's a really great way of just, someone will have an answer somewhere, or someone will always have had the same problem and found a solution to it, and you maybe get like 2 or 3 different answers to one problem. Yeah, so that would be, I would recommend, if you've any questions or anything, check that out. The YouTube group will have these videos and things that you can go over and look at. Yeah.
Yeah.
So hope you find that helpful.
Yeah.
So thanks very much for, you know, for joining me, and yeah, please look forward to hearing from you in the Facebook group and seeing some music that you've written with OpenMusic.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.